What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Show, where I, Graham G.S. and Matthews, break down all the original content you watch on the WWE Network as well as on Peacock. And today we're talking the June 7, 2021 edition of Raw Talk. Now, the very first thing that R-Truth brings up again to fellow host Kevin Patrick was that R-Truth lost the 24/7 championship because of Kevin Patrick a couple of weeks ago on Raw, which reminded me that we haven't seen the championship on the show since, which is not a bad thing. There were certain things that I was reminded of watching Raw Talk this week, and certain things that annoyed me that we haven't seen on Raw recently, like Damian Priest. Where the fuck has he been? We hadn't seen Braun Strowman since Backlash, and they fired him. I'm not saying they're firing Damian. I'm not saying they're going to fire Damian Priest, but why wouldn't you have anything for that guy to do? I mean, you were pushing him pretty aggressively going into Mania, coming out of Mania. He hasn't done anything since WrestleMania Backlash, or really the night after when he beat John Morrison. That came into my head watching Raw Talk. The other thing was this segment when Truth mentioned that, Kevin cost me the 24/7 championship. Unless they've been having segments on Raw where Truth has been chasing Tozawa and I just have missed it and I've skipped over it, because sometimes, most of the time actually, I don't watch the show live. I watch it on delay. I skip through all the commercials, all the bullshit. Unless I miss something, I don't think it's been acknowledged on the show since, which is not a bad thing. I would just do away with the championship altogether, but that's just me. So, in addition to talking about the pointless 24/7 championship, they also take the time to recap the stupid ending to the show. And stupid is putting it lightly. That is putting it very generously. The whole Shayna Baszler, Alexa Bliss bullshit with Lily and the lights go. I can't even recap it. I can't even bring myself to shit on it right now. It was that bad. And yes, people saying, oh no, it wasn't that bad. And was it a top 5 worst endings in Raw history? That I don't know. There's been a lot of bad endings in Raw's history, so I'd really have to go back and check on that. But it wouldn't be that far off. If you had a list of the top 50, maybe the top 20, I don't see why this wouldn't be in that list, in that conversation. I mean, this was just fucking terrible. So let's move quickly on from that. Thankfully, they kept it to a minimum, and they quickly moved on. Kevin Patrick also recapped Kofi Kingston beating Riddle on Raw this week. There was no follow-up on the whole MVP Kofi thing. I don't even think they talked about it here. I mean, I'm sure they will follow. I mean, I can't be sure that they're going to follow up on it. It's WWE, and they typically forget about this type of shit. But, yeah, no, I don't know. I don't really know where that's going, but I'm interested to see where it does. They didn't really talk about that here, really just Kofi beating Riddle one-on-one. They also previewed Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship inside Hell in a Cell at the pay-per-view, not this weekend, but next weekend. The Viking Raiders were the first guests here on the show, and they kind of reaffirmed that they're a team. Well, they kind of acknowledge they still exist, because we haven't seen them on the show in well over a month. I know they were on the show in a backstage segment last week, but beyond that, though, they came back the night after WrestleMania. They beat Cedric and Shelton 2 weeks in a row, and that was it. They were off the show for a fucking month and a half. This is what I'm talking about. I know if you don't have plans for people, maybe you just shouldn't use them, but how do you not have plans for people like the Viking Raiders, Jeff Hardy? They brought back fucking Jinder Mahal, and they haven't done shit with him since. I don't give a shit about Jinder Mahal, but still. I mean, that just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's no consistency to the show. That's the problem. But they're back. They won the number 1 Contenders Battle Royal at the beginning of Raw last night to earn themselves an opportunity at the Raw Tag Team Championship, probably at Hell in a Cell, which I'm glad they didn't go with RK Bro. Save that for SummerSlam. Save that for when there's fans there. There's no real reason to rush into that right now. So they talk about how excited they are for that opportunity. They replay the interaction they had backstage earlier in the show on Raw, where Styles and Omos confronted the Raiders while Omos was eating chicken, which I think he stole from one of the Raiders. I guess that was on Raw. I must have skipped over it or missed it or whatever. It was not that very good. I enjoy Styles and Omos as a team, but that whole interaction was just dumb. So, yeah, Eric even says that he praises, he even says that AJ Styles is one of the best in the world and that Omos is a monster. But what he thinks that they're trying to do by trying to get in their head is cost them their opportunity, make them do something dumb so that they don't get their shot at the Raw Tag Team Championship before whenever it is that they're getting their shot. And Ivar reiterates that you shouldn't mess with a man's food. So that was pretty much it. We had the Raw Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley, on next, and just kind of regurgitating the same stuff she's been saying about Charlotte ever since Charlotte came back. This really wasn't anything new. I like Rhea Ripley a lot, but this was just kind of the same old shit, because she and Charlotte lost the tag team match on Raw last night. And it wasn't even just that the challenger lost. The fucking champion got pinned by Nikki Cross, who didn't do anything. So it's not even like, oh, what a big win for Nikki. Charlotte attacked Rhea, and then Nikki picked up the scraps. How impressive is that, really? And I talked about Nikki Cross last week when she was on the show, and I like Nikki, but the fashion in which they've had her win recently isn't really all that impressive. So why should I give a shit that she pinned the Raw Women's Champion? I mean, seriously, who cares? But Rhea Ripley brings up how it's humorous that Flair claimed that Rhea wouldn't be professional in their tag team match, and then Charlotte was the one who wasn't professional. She knew she couldn't trust Flair, and she puts it on herself that she didn't think that she would stoop that low to attack her during the match, which I think Rhea started, but I don't remember. Anyway, she didn't think that she would stoop that low. She should have known better. Just the same old basic bullshit. I mean, I was really looking forward to this Rhea and Charlotte feud because they had the unfinished business from last year at WrestleMania. They haven't even acknowledged that shit recently. It should be as simple as Rhea wants to avenge the loss against Charlotte from last year. Her career was never the same. It went into a downward spiral until she arrived on Raw earlier this year. Why is it that difficult to tell that story? I mean, honestly, why are we... I don't get it. The whole feuding partner shit is just terrible. She knows that she lives rent-free currently in Charlotte's head. So again, the same old shit. This was just a complete waste of time. Truth said that he's picking whoever wants it most at Hell in a Cell between Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair when asked who he's going with in the match. So finally, we have MVP and the WWE Champion Bobby Lashley on the show. MVP says they're going to continue to celebrate coming off the announcement that at Hell in a Cell, Drew is not going to get any more opportunities at the WWE title if he loses to Bobby at the pay-per-view. And it's also going to be inside Hell in a Cell itself. MVP reiterates that McIntyre knows that he can't beat Lashley. He lost at WrestleMania. He lost, at Backlash, wasn't pinned, but he still lost. A loser is a loser. If you didn't win, you're a loser. And Lashley says that Hell in a Cell won't change anything. The stipulation, even though McIntyre's been in it before, it doesn't change the outcome. Because Bobby even brought up, which is a great point, he beat Drew at WrestleMania, first of all, not only just one-on-one, he beat him in a regular fucking match. And Drew was claiming after, MVP distracted me, and there's going to be no outside interference, blah, blah, blah. And that's great, but, it was still clean in the middle of the ring. It wasn't like Lashley got himself counted out or ran away, or maybe they brawled on the outside, but most of the match took place in the ring. I just don't really understand. I completely agree with Lashley where the Cell stipulation, it is the end of the feud, it does make sense. But from a storyline standpoint, other than McIntyre having one Hell in a Cell match under his belt, which he fucking lost, by the way, does it really make that much of a difference? No, it doesn't, to answer my own question. So, yeah, he even recalls putting McIntyre to sleep at WrestleMania. He says he'll continue to make money and beat the entire roster. Line him up, I'll knock him down. And Truth tells Lashley to save his money, but Lashley says he has an endless supply of money. And they kind of go tease going out and hitting the streets and hitting the clubs and partying all night. They invite R-Truth, they invite Kevin Patrick, but realize he has a ring on his finger, and that he's married, and he actually had a baby just recently, which is why he missed Raw Talk a few weeks ago. And Kevin said, I gotta have a talk with my wife about that. I can't go out. I think it was actually McIntyre, or rather MVP and Lashley that caught that, and not Kevin himself. It's not like Kevin said, I got a wife, I can't go out. It was Lashley and MVP that caught that and said, maybe you should have a talk with your wife first before you go out with us, which I thought was funny. But yeah, just kind of a middle of the road edition of Raw Talk. McIntyre and MVP I thought were the best part about the episode. The Viking Raiders were fine. They just kind of completely disappeared from the show, and now they're back and getting a title shot, which it's better than RKO Bro getting a title shot right now. I'm glad they're saving that at least until Money in the Bank or SummerSlam or a little bit later down the line. The Rhea Ripley stuff was absolutely nothing new. The shit they're giving her to say is, one, not good, but I've seen a lot of people ask the same question. Is she a face or is she a fucking heel? Because it's impossible to tell. The booking of a lot of these characters is just completely abysmal. But yeah, just a decent episode this week. Nothing too great. Talking Smack is far better. But the show, in my opinion, is far better now than it was when Charlotte Caruso was hosting. Because it would get off the rails way too often, and she just was not very good. So honestly, I like Kevin Patrick a lot more on the role, but this episode really isn't worth going out of your way to check out. And those are my thoughts on the June 7, 2021 edition of Raw Talk. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Check out the description box down below for more Raw Talk reviews, and be sure to hit the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. Have a great week, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.